of Chefs and Lambos. We are now on episode 13. We have a lovely lady chef today, and I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us where you're working today.
All right, my name is Kayla Pfeiffer, currently the executive chef of a new restaurant concept called PJK. It's going to be a neighborhood Chinese restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what does that mean as far as like neighborhood? It's just going to be like a freestanding, just similar to this, where people will go in and get like to go and like.
So we're actually going to be right off of Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
So it's something that area specifically doesn't have is an elevated Chinese concept.
That's true.
You drive down Fifth Avenue, you see a lot of the same type of restaurants, and we wanted to bring something unique to the area and offer a variety of different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this something you kind of did on your own, or did somebody approach you about?
Someone approached me about this. So,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Now I'm just making the food and hoping it tastes good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So when I do these podcasts, I always like to start way back at the beginning. So let me ask you, with your career, what made you want to be a chef, or what was like your calling that you said, hey, I want to cook?
I just remember my dad, he was in the industry, owned restaurants in New York for a while, and it was every Sunday, that was our day to cook, family meal, and I was always just attracted to being in the kitchen, helping prep, making short ribs, whatever it was, I was always in the kitchen.
Okay. And like at that age, was it kind of scary working the knives and doing all that? Like,
It's just like the most natural thing. The first time I picked up a knife.
wow.
Yep.
Okay. And then like did he continue to do that kind of work for a long time, or?
Yes. So after he had my younger sister, he kind of got out of that industry because it is so grueling.
Yeah.
We all know.
We all know, yeah.
We love it though.
Uh-huh.
And so he would still cook on the weekends, and I would learn a lot from him. And I got a job in the front of the house when I was really young, and never looked back.
Okay. And then as far as your career, did you ever go to culinary school and kind of like do the training thing?
I did. I went to the Culinary Institute in Hyde Park, New York, for
Beautiful.
2 years.
See, that's the greatest place to be.
It's awesome.
So when you went there, was that like super exciting because you get well-rounded and you learn all the different things? Like, what was like your favorite experience doing that?
I think with everything in life, it's what you make it. It's the effort that you put into it. So the Culinary Institute has a great amount of resources, but
Absolutely.
it's only what you get out of it.
Right.
And I really, put my head down and just studied every day and tried to learn as much as I could.
When you started, though, did you have an idea of the kind of chef you were gonna be, or you had no idea? Like, did you have it in your mind, hey, I'm gonna be a restaurant chef?
No idea.
Or I'm gonna do pastries?
None.
You were like open to whatever was gonna come?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that's kind of how I did it too. When I was going to culinary school, I did this thing where it started super early. So it was like 7 a.m. it started. You went to school all the way till 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock comes around, you go home, take a nap, and then at 4 o'clock I go to work.
Yes.
And then I work till like 10 o'clock, sometimes 11, and it's a grind.
It is.
Is that kind of what you did too, or you did both?
We did a little bit of everything. So there's the program, you wake up, at 3 in the morning for a breakfast class, and then you're as late as, 1 in the morning for dinner services. So it's all in between. Yeah. Yep. And then on the weekends I would commute and work in the city.
Wow. So when you worked in the weekends, like what kind of restaurants were those? Like, was it one that you stayed with the whole time?
Correct. One specific one that I ended up working there after graduating was called the Dutch in Soho.
And what kind of food was that?
American, but really had a lot of Asian influence as well as Italian. So it was really a great place for me to learn.
Okay. And when you worked there, like, did you do a little of everything, or were you kind of like, hey, you're going to do hot foods at this restaurant?
I was working stations. So I started at Garde Manger, and I worked my way up to work the hotline and work grill.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. And then did the chef trust you to kind of do your own thing, or did he kind of like baby steps, like, hey, we're going to show you a little at a time, or he's just like, there you go do your thing?
It's kind of what I say right now. It's trust but validate. So
Gotcha.
You can trust someone, but you always have to validate, making sure that it's done, to your standard, and never letting anyone cut corners. And
Gotcha.
I think that's something that is very important. It gives confidence in young cooks, but also making sure that things are still to certain.
Well, maybe you'll find this interesting. When I went to school, my thing was, I call it like the sponge phase. Is like you're going to school, you're learning all your basics, garmage, desserts, pastries, all that stuff. But what I would do is I would work at every cuisine. So I've worked at Italian, I've worked at French, I've worked at Japanese, I've done Lebanese. What I would do is learn all the recipes and quit. And go to the next spot, learn all those recipes and quit, because it's like you got nothing to offer me.
Yeah.
I'm just here to build my encyclopedia. So that's kind of how I did it when I was learning and kind of going to school and stuff. So, it sounds to me like you kind of stayed put, but I found like that was very educational, because you can learn the basics. Okay, this is how you do a hummus or whatever, but then you're going to add your twist to it.
Yes.
Is that kind of how you look at food? Like you might learn the basic, but then you have to put your own stamp on it.
Always. That is totally how I cook.
Right, because with cooking, there's obviously no rules.
Familiarizing your clientele with things and making it totally out of left field at the same time. So
Right.
you get to be creative, yet also people still appreciate it.
Okay. And then when you were going to school, did you kind of like develop a lot of friendships with the kids and kind of like, like keep in contact and have like a good flow?
Yes, to this day.
Really?
Everyone that I went to school with, I still have a really good relationship with.
You know what I remember when I went to school? Everybody was always complaining like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so sick of this. I just want to get out and make money.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like what a lot of the people talked about?
Oh boy, yes, yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
like very eager.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like eager to like hit the pavement and make a name for yourself, right?
And that's really not what it's all about for me. It's not about the name or anything like that. It's really about inspiring others and the clientele. When you put a dish in front of their face and they see it, they taste it, it's their expressions is what it's all about.
Right. That's cool. And then with your experience of going to school and living there, when did you actually, like after that, where did you go next? Was it Florida?
I worked in upstate New York, then in New York City for a while, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, and then moved back down here.
Was that a different restaurant though?
One was another Italian place in Woodstock.
Okay.
And then the Dutch for quite a while in New York City.
The Italian one, what kind of stuff were you learning, or what type of cuisine would you say? Like handmade pastas? Like what was it like?
Oh, we did everything in scratch or in-house, scratch every day. We were doing a crazy amount of volume. So just learning the volume, but making sure that the quality was still there was something that was a great learning experience.
How many cooks were in the kitchen there?
We had 4 cooks.
Okay.
And only one person worked pasta. So that was a huge station.
I remember during school there was another like famous restaurant. I'm from Michigan, so the school there was very different from CIA, but I feel like the education was pretty satisfactory. But when I worked going to different restaurants, there was one place I looked at. It was called Tribute, and this restaurant was super fancy. Where no joke, it probably had about 30 cooks.
Wow.
So at every station there was like a fish station. You're doing vegetables this day, you're gonna do this. And I just remember looking at it and I was like, how am I gonna fit into this? This is making me dizzy. Looking at all these cooks running around.
And knowing exactly what they had to do.
But this chef was a big time chef, and the restaurant eventually closed, but I remember talking with him and he's like, you'd really learn a lot from this, but I remember they were just gonna pay me like $9 and I just couldn't do it. I was like, I ain't gonna work for $9.
There's a line.
Right. But so tell me, okay, so from that restaurant, you finished school, then when did you go to Florida? Was it 2 years, like you said?
2 years after, yeah.
Okay.
Came down here, moved to Punta Gorda, actually.
Where was your first restaurant?
My first restaurant
Here.
was actually the French on Fifth Avenue in Naples. Yeah.
Yep, sure.
So I made that commute for a year.
What year was it when you started?
I was there from a month after they opened.
Oh, okay.
So 2016, I think it's 16.
Okay,
Yep.
and were you brought in as just like a line cook, or were you a sous chef?
I was brought in as a line cook.
Okay.
I had prior experience with a little bit of management, but I started from the bottom and worked my way up there.
Okay, when you started, how many cooks were on the line and kind of that deal?
There was 7 to 8.
Okay.
We were doing crazy volume. Once again, 600 covers, and only opened for dinner.
Did you find the kitchen satisfactory as far as pumping out that much?
Yeah.
And never enough room?
Because there was always a standard there too with the quality of food. It wasn't like just mashed potatoes on a plate. There was a lot of technique that went into it, so it really intrigued me to be there.
But I'm saying, like, as far as keeping up with that volume, was there a lot of trouble, like having the kitchen space and kind of like having that quality to be able to handle that many covers? Was there a lot of growing pains?
Yes. There's always going to be growth.
Yeah.
It was a brand new restaurant, you know, no one knows how to do it because we're all learning for this at the same time.
Right.
So you have to have a strong head in those types of situations. Opening new restaurants are always going to be a struggle, but it's just cooking. It's just food at the end of the day, so you can't stress about it.
And were you basically like a lunch chef, or both shifts, like lunch and dinner? What was your shift like?
I would come in the morning and prep with the sous chefs. And then I would work a station at night.
Okay. So what were your hours like?
I
roughly?
would 11 a.m. to midnight.
Wow.
And then I would drive an hour and a half each way because I lived in Punta Gorda.
That's a long.
Yeah.
That's dedication for you.
It's passion.
That is passion. So did you ever like think like at any point this ain't for me, or you loved it and it was fine?
Never.
Oh. So you're definitely got a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
So with your job, how is it that you did what you did with like, was there like recipes, or how did you kind of learn this stuff?
There's always that base recipe, but I do a lot of reading in my free time, you know, and that just trying to be creative and bringing something to the table that no one's seen before. So there's that fine line.
So there was freedom a little bit, you're saying?
Yes.
So you can kind of do your own
thing. It was certainly earned. It wasn't right off the bat.
Right,
I had to work really hard to get that, but...
So you probably made specials, things like that?
Yeah. I worked from line cook to executive chef there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what was the span of time it took to jump into that executive chef job?
I would say 2.5 years.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you find, like, a lot of employees come and go? Or was the staff pretty solid that they stayed around?
I think down at the restaurants on Fifth Avenue especially, they're great staff. We really didn't have many issues, so we're lucky.
Okay, because I mean, with doing this podcast thing, I'm interviewing a lot of chefs, and you know, they would say if they had a restaurant, they'd go through maybe 100 cooks before they found the right one.
That's definitely true, but it's also having that time, patience, and the understanding that they want to learn, so you can't expect them to do things.
Right.
Show them.
Right. Well, I think like another thing was, I think in their case that it was not just like the right cook. It was more like these guys were young. They didn't want to work. Mm-hmm. They want to collect unemployment. There was just like a weird
COVID
phase.
definitely had a...
Yeah, we'll get into that too. But I'm saying, like, I don't know. It seems like maybe now things are turning because, as you know, we went through a hurricane where maybe some people lost their jobs, where there's an influx of maybe good employees looking for their new home, where you might benefit because you're going to staff. So maybe you're going to get some good people.
Yeah,
so,
hopefully.
Yeah, maybe you're going to hit the lotto with that. Okay, so going from that, now I do know, because I follow you on Facebook, we're friends, so I do know you moved on from that restaurant to the Mercado location, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that, how that worked out.
So after 4 years at the French, I opened up the Bartulia in Mercado as the executive chef there.
Okay.
Recently...
by the way, did you design any of the kitchen? Did you have any input on the equipment?
Vincenzo he was really good with having me involved in most things in the operation.
Good.
So
that's great.
That's
a lot to learn there.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yep. And so I was pretty hands-on with the opening. Didn't take a day off for 4 months straight.
Wow.
Because I, in a way, wanted to prove to myself and show, my cooks that I'm this dedicated, I care what you put in the window.
Right,
It's going to be this way or no way,
okay.
And creating that culture is so important, especially in the beginning.
Did anybody from your previous restaurant follow you, or you started from scratch and hired new employees?
I didn't want to leave anyone at the French or anywhere like our other sister restaurant, Osteria Tulia, and then Bartoli downtown, in a situation. So we found a brand new staff there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they stayed on? Like you didn't have these issues of people not showing up the next day or calling out a lot? You didn't
You're
have a
always
lot
gonna
of-
have that, but we were lucky in
Okay.
that place, whereas we have to this day or the same staff from
Wow.
opening.
See, you're getting lucky, man. Because I don't know. I don't trust a lot of people. I just feel like a lot of people let you down sometimes.
Yeah.
But
The trust but validate.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've definitely gotten lucky with that. So with opening that restaurant, I imagine with that location, probably right off the bat, you're jamming, right?
Crazy busy.
So was it like a lot as far as keeping up? Were you able to keep up right away, or were you running out of stuff all the time and like?
We had no other option. I had to keep up. So
Yeah.
really small kitchen. We don't even have a freezer there. So in the beginning, we were open for lunch right away. But it was just, we had to keep up. So prep cooks had to be there at a certain time, line cooks, sous chefs, everyone had to be there.
So they're paying out a lot of overtime?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we had just that right amount of people,
Okay.
that staffing level, and with the support of my sous at the time and everyone else,
Okay.
we made it work.
Okay. So what were your, like going from there to the other restaurant, being at that much, I guess, pressure, what did it do for your hours? Were you working like crazy hours where you're working 60 and
Oh yeah.
did you ever feel like, oh man, I'm really getting beat up salary wise, or do you feel like you were paid pretty well?
I don't do it for the money.
There you go. Hey, I mean,
Listen.
look, you already got the right attitude.
You can't. It truly. I mean, it is all passion, and I love going to work every day, no matter if I had a crappy day before or whatever it is. I never let that bother me.
That's awesome.
Every day is a new day.
I'm really impressed. I mean, your next venture, you're gonna hit it out of the park because you got that dedication. A lot of chefs are kind of like, well, I need all these guys to help me, but it sounds like you're
No.
kind of like, hey, I can do everything.
If I need to, I will. I don't like to, but.
And with your cooking that you did there, what do you feel is like your strongest suit? Like, are you more of like the hot food or pastry, or do you just do it all? Like what is your strongest point, do you think?
Well, being the executive chef, I'm not working the line.
Right.
So I'm watching.
Uh-huh.
I expoed a lot, but I wanted to train my sous chefs to expo, and so it would free me up even more so with whether if it was doing an offsite event or being able to go and train a pasta cook and sit there with this for the whole service, so he's not picking up bad habits but good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a lot of that.
And then how much input did this Vincenzo have with what you were doing there? Did he like a lot of hands-on, or he just let you do your thing?
I think at that point he trusted me enough where he wasn't there too much. He was there when he needed to be or wanted to be, which from day one I told him that is my job is to make your job easier.
Right.
So
Right.
I was just only trying to do my job, freeing him up to be at any of the other locations.
But am I correct in saying that the menu was the same
No.
from the other location?
No.
Oh, it was totally different.
Very
dishes.
different. Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I figured maybe it was like, hey, these are our staples. This is what we're doing, and then you could just add all your specials. But I'm totally wrong.
No, we had maybe 4 or 5 staples from our downtown location, but everything else was seasonal. I changed the menu 3 times a year,
Okay.
and then did 3 to 4 specials every week,
Okay,
changing.
so you felt like you had a lot of freedom
Yes,
to do whatever you wanted to do.
definitely.
Okay. And then let's talk about like when you're working this job and then COVID hits. What happened to your operation at that point? Was it shut down, or how long, or what happened?
So when COVID hit, I was still at the French,
Okay.
and we took that as an opportunity to help the community. We did a huge to-go program. We did groceries, so if you needed to grab a head of lettuce or a pork chop, we had all of this available. You'd call in if it was 15 minutes or you needed it a day in advance, whatever it was, we had it ready to go for you.
Okay.
And so we tried to help the community and bring everyone together in that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Because I mean, what happened with a lot of the restaurants, they were forced to just close down, or politically, they don't
Yeah.
want to like deal with all that stuff. But I'm glad you guys were able to still make a living and do your
Yeah,
thing.
it was good. It's good not to be sitting around and
Cool.
wondering about all the what ifs.
Okay. So tell me a little bit briefly about your new venture that you're gonna do.
So after a year and a half of opening Bartulia and very successful at that, I decided to leave the company and go out on a different venture, kind of like you said, learning different styles of cuisine, but also pushing myself, never being complacent. And so I decided to take on a job at a restaurant that's not open yet, PJK Neighborhood Chinese. So that'll be off of 5th Avenue, and it'll be an upscale Chinese restaurant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I can't wait to check it out. When are you projected to probably open?
So with the hurricane, we had a little bit of damage, but thankfully not a lot. So now it's about January, early January.
I think a lot of the restaurants are kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
Are down there.
5th Avenue got hit
It's
really
terrible.
bad.
It's terrible. I feel bad for a lot of those places. Well, Chef, it was nice meeting you, and I thank you for coming out and being on. And I'm going to follow your career, and I can't wait to try your new restaurant.
Than't you for having me.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. Thank you.
Yep.